It's a fucking lie!
But
There's no such thing as compelled speech! Government cannot tell you what to do!
That's pure narcissism at work, by the way. You know, to hijack an event like this that other people put time and effort into, and to use their civility of the crowd and the civility of the organizers as an excuse to blatantly yell out your ill-informed opinions is no way to conduct a civil dialogue. It's absolutely appalling. The people who do that should be embarrassed. I guess I would also say that as students and as faculty members, you shouldn't put up with it. There's no way that you should allow people who are doing this to hijack your educational opportunities and to bend and twist the functions and the structures of the university. It's not a good thing, not in any way at all. I would say that was a very disgraceful display, fundamentally. So
let's stick with it. Why do you think people are afraid of free speech?
Well, you know, people develop an ideological view of the world because they don't want to think through things in real detail, and they're aided and abetted in that endeavor by their pathological professors who are feeding them, what would I say, an oversimplified radical view of the world that, in my estimation, is fundamentally based in resentment. Not that there's no reason for, say, a left-wing view of the world, and we can get to that later. It's easy virtue. You know, you can stand up in front of 900 people with your placard and your screeching, and you can declaim to the entire audience your fundamental moral superiority. You can tell everyone at once that they're all beneath you and you're standing for the right thing, and absolutely none of that is earned. You know, like what the hell was that? No, seriously, man. It's just complete misbehavior. It's embarrassing. And the fact that the people who do that don't have enough sense to go hide their head in shame just tells you how badly socialized they are and how terribly educated they are. And the thing that's so awful is that there are professors and educators who promote that. They say, well, that's how you change the world. It's like, it is how you change the world, but it's certainly not how you make it better. You make it worse, clearly. You know, there's no comfort in that. And there's nothing about it that's impressive. It's no better in some sense than a 2-year-old having a tantrum on the floor. It shows, as far as I'm concerned, it approximates the same level of psychosocial development. So, and the fact that this is happening continually at universities it truly makes me embarrassed to be associated with the university. And I say that with great displeasure because, you know, I've been working for great universities for a very long time, and the university is an absolutely remarkable institution. You know, it's survived for 1,000 years, and to see it brought down by people whose behavior would be out of place at a 4-year-old's birthday party is something abysmal to behold.
So what about
the upper hand in everything, including access to communication? These people are not your friends. I say, you know, And mark my words, that's the sounds of the barbarians pounding at the gates. Right. Yeah, that's, I'll tell you again too, that use of inchoate, what would you call it? Inchoate sensation is the best formulation of their argument. And there's not much difference between knocking on the doors and knocking on you. So keep that in mind. It's not amusing. There's nothing to it. There's nothing for it. The thing that's also quite appalling is that there's no evidence whatsoever that the people who are conducting these protests know what it is that they're protesting against. You know, I was in... I was in the midst of a discussion attempting to make the case that it's freedom of speech that is what people who have nothing still have, right? So if you look at the tyrannical structure of our society, let's say, the people at the top have access to means of communication. Everyone knows that. It's the people at the bottom who have the right to say what they think, however badly they say it, that enables them to get a toehold into the system and to make their suffering known. That's what freedom of speech is for. And so, like, what's the protest against that? And I'll tell you, you know, that the radical neo-Marxist types, they speak the language of power. And that's what they're speaking right now. And if you want to live in a world where everyone speaks the language of power, then just let them do what they're doing and see what happens. I wouldn't recommend it. It's not a pretty road. And you're all in a position, you're all in a situation in your life now where you have to make decisions about this sorts of things. Like, is this the sort of institution that you want this to be?
Op-ed writer for the school paper. And full disclosure, I wrote an article saying that I think you're a hack. Now, I came with an open mind, and I was disappointed to find that much like much of the current president's comments, yours are based on sort of shallow logic, lack of expertise, no real facts, and economic ignorance. But, and some conservatives have said that too, but I have a question about the broader conservative philosophy, and this gets back to what you said about trade. Now, you said that, you know, we got to, get trade back in order. But with the trend in technology nowadays, the real threat is not trade and loss of jobs overseas, but automation, artificial intelligence, the replacement of many of the jobs that serve as a starting level for economic advancement. What role does conservatism have in a world in which machines and automation can take the place of much of human labor and activity that generates income and value for everyday people?
All right. Well, man, let me say this. If it is the case that in what I said tonight, and I put some fairly incendiary material on the table, if I had said something that was even arguably wrong, factually wrong, about the Democratic Party or about fascism or about Trump, it would be very easy for someone to point it out. So normally, if you're going to call someone a hack, you should kind of try to establish your own bona fides. You know, it's okay. It's okay. Look, a certain amount of moral indignation is the staple of being a late teen. And so I think we should be indulgent. Now, technology. Look, here's the point. We have seen in the United States the ordinary working guy, I don't just mean the white guy, the black guy, the Hispanic guy, the working class in this country has been hit by 3 powerful winds blowing in the same direction. And those winds are named globalization, immigration, and technology. Now, what does the Democratic Party plan to do about any of these? And the answer is nothing. Nothing. Obama did nothing. Hillary proposed to do nothing. In fact, what the Democratic Party wants to do is to increased the problem of illegal immigration, motivated solely by getting Democratic voters, with complete indifference to the impact on the worker. Now, Trump has never spoken one word against technology. The technology boom in the United States is the product of Reagan-era policies of privatization, deregulation, the unleashing of the entrepreneur. If you don't believe me, you know, when I came to the United States, the entrepreneur was in a funk. The guy who was riding high on the hog was the federal worker. Why? Because a generation ago, a moronic John F. Kennedy said, if you're young, if you're idealistic, do what? Join the Peace Corps. Become a public servant. An oxymoron, if I ever heard one. And so the bureaucrat was made the embodiment of American idealism. Reagan challenged that. Reagan goes, it's not the bureaucrat just sits at his desk. Reagan told the story of a guy at the Bureau of Indian Affairs who was sobbing at his desk. And a man came up to him and said, what's up? He goes, my Indian died. And this was the Reaganite celebration of the entrepreneur. And if you talk to young entrepreneurs, Michael Dell and others, they will tell you that the Reaganite mood of optimism is what launched Microsoft in 1982 and Dell in the 80s and this whole technology boom. So, in short, Trump recognizes the great benefit of technology. But he also realizes that in a society, it's not fair for a whole bunch of people to gallop tremendously ahead while a whole bunch of hard-working people are left behind. What kind of American dream is it that only works for some people? If we're going to have ladders of opportunity, everybody should be able to see a ladder. This is the new republicanism that Trump represents. Ordinary Republicans don't even think about working people. They don't even talk like this. They talk about things like trade instead of talking about things like workers and jobs.